Yes,
This whole thing?
just the bottom one, really.
Must have been
That
that
one,
squirrel.
the bottom one, yeah.
It was that squirrel. Now, if there's anything I want you to know, your mail. Give it to one of the
Hang,
kids.
hang on,
Yeah, they're kids. They do. There's six of
hang
them.
on,
You do
wait a
more than I
minute.
can do.
Text. Okay, text.
To me.
All right. Stop it. Paula. Yeah, but it's not. Okay, hang on. All right, there's that. That's what I want for everybody to have. Let's do it quick. Yeah. It won't.
And I'll just see if I got it.
Okay. I sent a PDF form. Does that matter? You got it? Send it to the whole world. up and running? Okay. All right, hang one second. I take microphone up to it. Just the iPhone plug, nothing like that. Nothing. No, your iPhone uses a little flat proprietary. Okay, let me just hold it up to turn it up loud. Put it just on the stand and let it go here. Okay, everybody, if I can have your attention, please. We're going to do this remotely, but it's not going to hurt a thing. I'm going to have him speaking through my phone, and it's going to be picked up by the microphone, and he'll be able to hear you. You'll be able to hear him, except I will need a microphone or two to pass around the congregation if they have questions and comments. So let me get a test drive here. Rick, say something. Hang on, I haven't hit the button yet.
All right, testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Testing.
Yeah, we got that.
Hello.
That
How
part
does that sound?
we got. That part we got.
All right, it may need to be that you, if someone asks a question, if you could restate it into the phone, that way it's easier to hear.
Yes, we can do that, not a problem. So, you and I talked about several things, and I would like for you to go through where you see us being now, and for the near future and the far in the future. I'm trying to get this thing where it won't feedback, so.
All right. Do you want me to talk so that you can just adjust the feedback?
Yeah, it's going good. We're good.
Okay, well, good.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
This is Rick Bayadaseki. He's the landlord, the owner of the building, and he's not able to see your lovely faces, but we've got a good crowd. So we've already opened in prayer, and I'm just going to turn it over to you, Rick, okay? And when there's anything that needs to be interjected, I'll repeat the question if necessary.
All right. Well, as you folks may know, I started in this role about 10 months ago. My understanding is your church has been meeting in this building for some time, and it has been a good partnership to my understanding. I came in at least 9 or 10 months ago with the understanding that this church wanted to reach this community. So I am all about a church having a long-term home and making an investment in the community and trying to reach those folks. So my heart, and since I understood that there was a previous relationship with your church and the North Central Mission Center, that I would want to do everything I could to help your church be successful at reaching people. So one of the things I wanted to make sure is that landscaping looked good, or even the building itself was tended to with curb appeal. Any additional signage was taken care of, because it is my desire that your church is successful. And so several weeks back, it came to my attention that we were coming to the end of a lease agreement. And when I spoke with Pastor David and I think a guy named Norm, it might be Norm, we walked around the building, had a little bit of a conversation, and that was at a time when several weeks ago, when the discussion in the community was interest rates are getting ready to go up and inflation's going up, and I made the statement to Pastor David at that point, hey, I know that your rent for the facility has been pretty low, $500 a month for the length or the term of the lease. And my comment was, I would not want to turn you guys upside down in the midst of inflation and financial things. And so why don't we keep the cost for one more year while we determine together what the markets are going to do, what the economy is going to do, and that kind of stuff, and we can reevaluate at the end of that time to see what we want to do going forward. Because my heart and intention is that your church continue to keep using the facility as much as it's mutually beneficial, as long as it's mutually beneficial. So, man, I have a heart and desire to see you guys be successful, and want to continue to do whatever's necessary to help that happen.
What do you see as far as our participation further than the participation we've been involved with? What do you see us doing that we've not been doing?
That's a little hard to tell. Enough for a church, though, meeting in a building, I would think we both would want it to be to have curb appeal, to make sure that when people came on property, that they understood that this church was putting its best foot forward. Receiving a $500 a month for rent is, you guys and I know that's really low, but man, I don't want to stick it to a church. I would think your church and our ministry could figure out something to help the church have as much curb appeal as possible. And if we continue in this relationship, as with the first term of the lease for 5 years, I would think most businesses have a turnaround of depreciation on equipment and that kind of stuff after 2 years. If your church put resources into, paint or things to make the place look better for your church services or any of that kind of stuff, I think that would, stuff that we could agree on, I think that would be a fair kind of arrangement for us going forward for at least 5 years. Because I would think after another 5 years, a building would need paint or updating or, moving stuff around or whatever else. But I think, going forward, man, if the church, if you guys understand that you have a longer term to meet in that building, that it might be a good thing for your folks to make the investment in some paint or some things that would just make it look good for you as a church. Does that make sense?
Yes. We need to take some level of ownership or in the way the church looks, in the way the parking lot looks, things like that. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We do have a good landscaper right now, someone who's taking care of the grass and the pine straw, and some of that looks nice. But you folks know as well as I do that building and that facility that we are sharing is in the midst of a very affluent area. And there are folks whose houses are bigger and nicer than that building, and not to say that we need to, be opulent and over the top for what we can afford or what we ought to do. But there's some things that we can do together that would give the church a best foot forward, and maybe something that we could split costs on, or something that you guys would be willing to do, or whatever else. I would think that there are things that could be mutually beneficial to the physical plant there, as well as an appeal to the community that this church is current, it's up to date, it's putting its best foot forward, and gives you guys the opportunity to reach people who are actually in the community where the church building is. I think cost-wise, I don't know what that looks like, but I'm willing to work with your church if you're going to be there if we come to the agreement that it's going to be a long-term, like 5 years or whatever. Maybe there's some things that you guys wouldn't mind putting some money towards to help us. Because honestly, the North Central Mission Center, the three associations that we partner together with, they purchased that facility some time back. And it is a wonderful blessing to your church to be able to use it at such a low cost. So, man, I just think we work together to help for the sake of the church to look great, for the sake of the physical plant to be taken care of, and there ought to be things that we can do together.
Do you think we should be talking about a sliding scale increase in the rent?
Yeah, I think at some point it needs to go up. I mean, we're not probably the $500 a month is it may not be covering electricity and water. I would have to have our financial secretary do the numbers on that and that kind of stuff. But for the sake of just general upkeep of the building and facility, $500 is very low. I know I worked in a church. We as an organization, we as a church met in a high school every Sunday. We had several hundred people coming. We used a lot of the school. We spent over I think it was over $1,500 a week to be in the high school. We used the theater and the gym and other space. I would think we would be hard pressed for your church to find facility that would be less than $1,000 a month any place in the area for what you guys are wanting to do, and access to the facility pretty much anytime you need it. So the $500 that we are charging is very low, but man, I would not want to be too much for you guys. But if there's a willingness, if your congregation is going to be there over the next 5 years, if that's what we come to a further agreement on, and you're willing to spend some money to help the place look great, man, I would want to work with you on whatever is a fair thing, a fair cost for rent and usage of the facilities, if we're working together to make it look like the best place it can be for an appeal to people in that community.
Well, we are well aware that we have been recipient of the last red hot bargain. So
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys know. I mean, if you were looking for a facility, a place of any kind, except for some of the people who have houses around there that are very large, they might be able to host your church for free, but they would want to charge you a lot of money too. But man, I think what a great opportunety for partnership that we have with your congregation and with the 70 churches of the North Central Mission Center, the Etowah, Roswell, and Lanier Baptist Associations. It's those 70 churches that have provided the space for you guys to use at a low cost. So really, you are the beneficiaries of 70 churches participating in our cooperative efforts together. So if there is something that you could do in the course of, whatever agreed upon time period that would help the curb appeal and help maybe even the physical plant, like help them with the parking lot or something that we could do together, man, I would want to be able to work with you guys. My heart and goal is just to reach people and see people, come to know Jesus. And if we can use a building as a tool to accomplish that, let's do that.
Well, we have come to feel at home over the past 6 years, and our kids consider it home. They don't know the difference,
Yeah.
So we had 3 families join last week, and
That's great.
and I've said this before, and I'm sitting looking at a lot of horse people. Horse people are hard to reach.
They need a bit and bridle.
We have done it, and we are doing it. So I feel like the Lord's got us really moving. Let me. I think it's time for you guys to maybe ask some questions that I'm not doing very well at. Yes, Scott.
Will it still be a like they'll still work here and everything, they're not moving out? Right?
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you just a little bit.
Will it still be a co-op? You guys are not moving out.
Is the question, we're as an organization are not moving out of the building?
Yes.
No, there are no plans as an organization to leave the facilities. And I would think that I've even mentioned to a couple folks about, selling the facility at some point. I did not have any takers on that idea at this moment, at this juncture. And so I don't think that we would be, vacating the property and leaving the whole thing to your church. I don't see that in the short term. I do think it's a good thing that we have tried to make sure that more space is available to you as you continue to grow. And so even as the counseling ministry stopped using one of the office or classrooms, I tried to make that available to you immediately so that you could use it for children's space or classroom space.
Yeah, we are definitely full when it comes to the kids. And the adult Sunday school also. Yes.
Is a lease purchase an option?
Is
Is a lease purchase an option at this time?
Is a lease purchase an option at this time?
I would have to talk to the moderators and to the representatives of the 70 churches. They would have to be the one who made that kind of decision. That's not really the kind of thing that I can offer at this point. That a lease purchase would probably have to be something that was presented and voted on by the 70 churches.
How long does that process take usually? Like, is that something that happens quickly, or is that something if we are interested, we get the ball rolling and we know in a year, or?
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing that.
You said if we offered that, if we proposed
That was something we were interested
When
in.
this lease is up, moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're saying that when whatever lease we land on, when that one is up, if we propose to do a lease purchase, is that something you would consider?
I think that would be something that would have to be presented to the 3 separate associations. We have the Etowah, Roswell, and Lanier Baptist Associations. So we have 3 executive committees that meet quarterly, and so it would need to be something that would be presented to 3 separate groups, and for them to make the decision on that.
When is our current lease up?
Well, the 1-year lease we signed is up the end of
I would think so, and I would think if there's any substantive change to what's taken place, the status quo, that the moderators of those three associations would need to be involved. And then because it's a property issue, it would have to be, according to bylaws, it would have to be something that the three associations would have to make a decision on.
Okay. Did I hear you say that you did not, I heard something wrong, I think, that you had not had any takers on buying the building?
When I briefly, just in passing, sort of mentioned it to a couple of the churches in our network, they did not seem interested in the sale of the facility at this point. That's not to say that that's not something that could come up, but I did not have a formal presentation to our pastors and churches. I was just mentioning it to somebody, and they did not at that point seem favorable to the idea. That's not to say that that's not a possibility, but I didn't make a big intentional formal presentation to anyone on that. Just mentioned in passing.
Got you. I got you. The excitement level that has been that we've generated here is being run, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, is being run on the possibility of having a home.
Yeah, I empathize with you on having a place of permanence for your congregation. If that's the kind of thing that you guys are interested in doing, I would think that would be something that you would need to put a presentation together and have your congregation make formal request at our three association executive board meetings.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Yes.
How much of the building can we actually update or change? Is there limits to what we can do? Like paint and maybe outside?
Well, the parking lot has come into conversation.
Say that again. I didn't hear any of that.
Scott was saying, what is there that we can do? And I was saying that the parking lot is one thing that we could do.
I say we talk through all of it. I think I would want you guys to feel comfortable with inviting friends to your own church, and if there's stuff that we can do together to make it worth it. If there's some substantive or some structural changes that take place, we would need to get permission or whatever for structural changes, like additional walkways or lobbies or whatever. But I think within reason, painting any part of the building, to bring it up to the 21st century, or even changing siding on the outside or whatever. I think those things are cosmetic and could be easily okayed. But if there's something that needs, architectural drawings or something like that, I would think that would have to go to our, leaders to make a decision on it. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, painting anything in the building and taking care of siding or fixing the parking lot, those things are easy.
Gotcha. Okay.
Has this 5-year term, this proposed 5-year term, been agreed on already? Has there been a meeting of the minds, or just something being tossed around?
No, it's just Rick and I so far.
So hopefully we're starting that process now, so by August, it's finalized.
Yeah, this is the first step toward moving toward.
What were those questions? I didn't hear that.
Is the 5-year lease something that's already been determined? And I think I was saying that this is the first meeting toward.
Yeah, this is the first discussion on any of that. When I met with Pastor David and the other gentleman several weeks back, my only intention at that point was to delay decision on anything major so that we together could determine what's going to happen financially in the economy and that kind of stuff, so that what took place, what the expectation from the association to the church would be fair and not overtaxing, overburdensome.
Right.
So that was the only intent of making a 1-year delay on raising the rent or doing anything else, just to figure out what's going to happen so that we can be good for everybody.
Okay, that's the part that I misunderstood, coming from a 5 to a 1, and as I told you, I didn't ask the right questions.
Yeah, I had just said in that meeting, hey, things are a little crazy in our culture and the economy right now. You know, everything's going up and up and up, but I would not want to overburden the church in this moment. But let's determine. Well, let's be fair. Let's stretch this out for the year. We'll figure out where everybody is, and then we can do something that's fair at the year end. So my only desire with that was to make sure the church was okay as we went the next 12 months, just making sure financially everybody could work together on it.
Gotcha.
So our lease is up in September.
At the moment, end of September.
Is there a possibility that we could get to August and determine that the 5-year plan is not a possibility, and then we have to be out in a month?
Did you hear that, Rick?
No, I did not.
Is there a right now we're sitting on well, actually, realistically, a 9-month lease. Is there a possibility that and I'm just going to say the executive committees, is it possible that they would turn down a 5-year lease for us?
I don't think so, but if Pastor David, if I were you, that would mean that your church in our next meeting, in our next quarterly meeting in February, you and maybe someone on your team would need to be represented at each one of those quarterly meetings to request that from each association.
And by then we will have a team put
Great.
together that will be able to do just that.
Yeah, I think that's, if you guys wanted to forego the present 9-month lease and lock in something for 5 years, I don't see that the associations should have a problem with that, but that would really need to be a decision that I forestalled, just a temporary fix for the year, but to lock in for that, I would think the associations need to vote on that and make that decision, but I don't see that would be a problem. But that would be something that your church would need to request at the quarterly meetings for each of those 3 associations, because the 3 associations come together to make the decisions for the one organization, the North Central Mission Center.
Right.
Okay, so that answers the question I was gonna ask. Whatever we plan to do, time is of the essence. We need to start moving today if we decide we want to extend this lease for 5 years or whatever.
Well, I would think, at least at this point, making known your desire to do that. In our next meeting, that's February, March, April, I guess that would be May. So the next meeting's in May. I would think if, it would probably be until May if you're wanting to push that lease even further. That'd be May, June, July. The last one would be August. I would think that would be pushing a little bit. But if you worked on it until May and made formal presentation in May, that'd be fine. I would think that'd be fine. But you could get your Pastor David and maybe someone of your leadership could come to our next quarterly meeting and just ask the group what they think.
Yeah.
I think that would be amicable to, what would be good for the church and good for the associations.
Gotcha.
Because I would think the associations they don't want to see us throwing money down a hole on a building if it goes into disrepair. They wouldn't want that, because I would not think that would be a good thing. But for your church to express the interest, hey, we're wanting to work with the association and continue to use this facility and add value to it for the church and for the association, I think that's a win for everybody.
Okay.
would be up to the associations in their executive board meetings. So that's ultimately, because again, that's real property, a real property issue that would have to be decided by the group and can't be decided just by me.
All right, well, let me put you on a spot, or take you off the spot. What if we showed up at the next meeting and with a 5-year plan that would ultimately end up with a purchase?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I think for me, I would want to do what's best for the association and for the church. If we ended up selling that to your church, then I would have to, and the organization would have to find or buy additional office space. So that's something that would have to be, that's a consideration in there for our organization. So something else in the, the center of Dawsonville to Jasper, Woodstock to Johns Creek. So something that could be more centrally located to that. And as you well know, dirt is expensive in that area, and which is one of the reasons why you're probably considering buying the facility that you're meeting in, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
yeah, so they're not making any more dirt. If we sold the facility to your church, we would have to figure out where to place an office in the center of our geographic area. That's not your problem, but that is a consideration for our organization. So.
Right. But you would not need to necessarily go out and build another functioning church.
I would hope. Well, I would not see that. I would see that if we were going to do something else, we would need office facility that's sufficient for a few office staff and to be able to do the administrative and sign work that we do. So if somebody in your church had building space someplace in the center of that could donate it to the association, they could write it off, and the association would appreciate it, your church would appreciate it. I think the kingdom would be blessed. How's that?
Yes.
How much space do they need? Not Marietta.
How much space do?
How much space do they need?
Do they
How much,
need-
do they need one office, two offices?
Oh no, that whole side of the building.
Even the.
What'd they say?
They were asking how much space would the association need?
The association, I need place to be able to do office space. We have a financial secretary who you may well know, Bobby Kite. And then we have Janice, our office manager. We need enough space for comfortable administration of connecting with churches and doing that. And we also do full signage, banners and signs, and some administrative stuff for churches in our association. So, something with 3 offices and maybe space for a conference room.
One of the biggest benefits for us looking forward, if we were to submit a purchase in this building, is we would suddenly have access to all those office spaces for
that'd be great.
classrooms and fellowship, whatever, and that would
Right.
almost double our size. It's getting to the point to where Sunday morning and Wednesday night we're a little cramped.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I'm open for whatever is best for the association and what is positive for the church. And so if your team put together, and they did their comps, and if you can do comps on church property like that, but if they pull their comps and something that's reasonable for the association and the church, I would think that the moderators of the 3 associations would need to be met with before that meeting, because no one likes being caught off guard with major stuff.
Right.
So the meeting before the meeting would probably need to take place soon as the expression of the desire of the church for the facility, and then go from there.
Okay. When you say soon.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Right. Do you mean soon 30 days?
The meeting for our quarterly board meetings have already been set, and so those are coming up in the middle, the 16th, I think, 15th, 16th, and then at the end of the month of February. And so from today, you have less than 30 days for that.
And we need less than that for the meeting before the meeting.
Right, which, I wouldn't think you'd want to rush. I think you'd want to do your due diligence and plan well and that kind of stuff. And so, like I said, this meeting is coming up in February. It's pretty quick. But the May meeting that is in the middle of May, if you express your interest in stuff now or at the February quarterly and had a presentation for the May quarterly, maybe that gives you guys enough time to do that. But that's up to you. I would think giving our church leaders enough time to chew on something to be able to make a decision. No one likes to be rushed. So giving folks enough information ahead of time and trying to figure out what's fair and what's best for everybody for the sake of the kingdom. I think that's a decision for you guys to make, how quickly you want to push your team to do that.
Gotcha.
David?
Yes.
The annual meeting, which is always here, is the 21st of February.
21st of February. Okay. Nora, did you have something?
Yeah, I had one quick question. Been bothering me since you said this originally, because you said it was a possibility that if somebody in the association wanted to purchase this church, that's always a possibility. If we go ahead and start putting improvements into the church, we would like to have some kind of reassurance that we're not making it look good for somebody else to buy it, and that we would still remain here for long enough to make it worth our while.
Yeah, and honestly, I think what you're saying is, if you guys put money towards it and then we wanted to sell it to somebody else, that'd be pretty lame. And I think you're right. I think that's pretty lame. I would think it would be a bad thing for a Christian organization to let one group make improvements and then sell off of it. That ain't Jesus. So that would not be the kind of underhanded kind of stuff that our association would tolerate.
Okay.
So that would be something if the group gets together at one of the association meetings, they could bring that up and maybe get some reassurance.
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear all that.
I said that would be something that maybe when our team gets together at one of the association meetings and present this to the 3 associations, that we could bring that up and maybe get some reassurance from the group that we could go ahead and do this at some comfort level. That no one else would come in here and offer money and take the church away from us, because we're concerned about staying here for as long as possible.
I'm having trouble hearing any of that. I'm sorry.
We have gotten to the point to where we want to stay. We're a little afraid of, I guess, there's a lot of churches, I don't know, there are people with a lot of money. And we're
Well, I would think that an act of integrity by a Christian organization would prohibit someone from doing that kind of stuff, because that just seems underhanded to me.
Okay, well, that answers what Norm, to me, that answers what Norm is asking.
I think it's still business though, and I think we need to have a contract to protect both parties involved.
Yeah, that needs to be in
It doesn't need to be a promise and a handshake, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We need to have something in writing and have a contract.
That's what would happen, that's what would begin to happen at Right now, we're running off our 1-year agreement.
I think the concern though is if we wait too long, we're gonna be in a situation where we might have to find somewhere and we are not prepared to do that.
Yes, but we can't present until they meet. See, there's three associations,
Right.
all the way up from Dawsonville
Right.
down to Johns Creek, and they don't necessarily talk to each other, so they have
No.
two different meetings.
Got it.
And one may see this as a really good deal for them, the other may not, you know. So, Hillary, what?
I was gonna say, let's table the purchase for a moment, because if that's not an option, I think we also need some understanding or security's not the right word, understanding so we can start to long-term budget as to what the rent increase might be. And he mentioned 1,000 in here at one point. So as we get a team together that starts to run numbers and budget, you know, if rent's gonna jack up substantially, what is our 5-year lease rate? Does he determine that, or does that also go before the association?
Yeah, that's what I'd ask if it were a systematic
Sliding scale.
sliding scale on the rent. Is that something, Rick, that you determine, or is that something that goes before all three?
Okay, I didn't hear what the nice
Yeah.
lady was saying,
Okay.
and so if you could restate that to me.
The sliding scale on the rent,
Nice.
if that is a possibility, is that something that you
Like if you
determine?
guys double the amount of people coming, that I charge you more?
No.
I don't understand the purpose of sliding scale.
Well, our
Incremental
Budget.
increase.
Okay, here's what she's asking, Rick. Our committee will have to go out and plan what it's gonna cost us over the next 5 years to say, you know, just a wild guess, but,
Sure.
and what Hillary was asking, is there an escalation clause in this that we can kind of depend on? So the rent's gonna be 500 this year, and 1,000 next year, and 1,500, et cetera, and she wanted to know, is that something you determine, or does that go before the executive committee?
That would ultimately have to go to at the very least, our moderators. But the kicker for me, at least my vantage point on this, is we're not trying to get rich as an association off the back of your church. So I would think, you know, something that is, you know, it's something that's manageable for the church, that's fair to you and fair to us on the property value, whatever. I would not want to be detrimental to the work of the church or the future of your church. But I am also in a fiduciary responsibility, responsible for the facilities and the well-being of the association. We wouldn't stick it to you guys. We want to make sure that it's fair and equitable. It's clearly defined and delineated. And I would not want to, you know, keep jacking up the price every year. And you know, we don't know what's going to happen in the economy and the market, but I would want to do something that's fair and reasonable to make sure that you guys are taken care of and the association is not majorly taken advantage of.
right, and we agree with that too. We do. We're not here to.
Yeah, it's not a fair thing for you guys to want to lowball us and us, you know, try to price you out of the market. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for what is good for the association for their investment in this piece of property, and what is good for your church for the proclamation of the gospel to reach that community. And if we can do that in a mutually beneficial way, everybody wins.
Yeah, we agree. We agree there.
That's what I want. And I would venture to say, I'm taking a risk here, but I would think the good pastors and church leaders of those 70 other churches would want the same thing. They wouldn't want to stick it to you guys.
No, I don't feel any of that. I don't feel it to be that way. I really don't mean to come across that way.
That wasn't the
I
question.
don't think
actually.
we're trying to.
We're trying to plan a budget.
We're trying to plan a budget.
We need to get our.
Sure, yeah.
we need to get our team together, and we need to get them working on a budget that would allow us to continue to do what we're doing with some cosmetic things. And if there are incremental upgrades in the rent, and see how we can do this to where we can bring you an offer to the table, which might allow us to buy the property.
Yeah, and I would think make some suggestions from your vantage point. It's always negotiation in the terms, right?
Yeah.
So make your suggestions saying, okay, well, hey, okay, we go up on the rent for $1,000, but then we make capital expenditures for the betterment of the facility. And we'll make over the course of the next couple of years this kind of improvements in the property. I think people will go for that. Make a suggestion.
Okay. All right. Who else? Somebody? Yes.
First thing we need to do is find out what it costs to run this building every month.
Yeah. You have it. I just sent it to you. Yeah. We're talking about how much we're spending to run the building every month. We have that. We just got in our last year's
Talking about.
money.
No, David, she's talking about the whole,
Utilities
so
here.
what part are they paying? We need to know
Their expenditure.
Yeah.
their
So
expenditures.
500 a month is not covering the utilities, let alone any depreciation of
Right,
the building. So
taxes,
what's it cost
Right.
to run this building? And that would help us to determine we could make suggestions what the rent's gonna be.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. And we just got in our end of the year.
Now, our financial secretary is finalizing, compiling all of our stuff for year-end expenditures, and we can go from there. I've not been a landlord before. Pastor David, you keep calling me the landlord, and so that's just a funny idea and concept for me anyway. But I'm not. I don't know what is a equitable or fair amount over expenses to charge somebody for this kind of stuff. I just always lean towards what's the benefit for the kingdom for both organizations. So,
Okay, so.
and maybe somebody smarter than me can help quantify a price for rent that's fair. But I'm okay with doing what's good for both of us.
So, Rick, did I understand you could share the association or the North Central Mission financials with us? Could you share those with us?
Yeah, so as a church that is a member of the association can request any of the financial information from the association, because that's part of our accountability process for every church.
And we give every month to
The association. So because your church is a member of the association, any church can make the request of our financials, because it is you're a member, or your church is a member of the association and has access to all of that information.
It's just like our
It is.
members, church members.
Have access to
can
the
make
church's financials, yes.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes.
Okay, I think everybody's answering the same questions and asking the same things over and over again. So I think we should just, personally, if we had two different proposals, if we got together, we got the financials from the board and everything on what it's costing to run this place. And if we came up with two proposals, one is if we want to lease to purchase, right, and we're gonna buy the place. And then we have a contingency plan, backup proposal on like a 5-year plan for us just leasing, because if for some instance we go up to the boards and they say, no, we don't want you to buy, we have to be prepared, we have to have a backup and say, okay, well, if you don't let us buy, we'd like to lease for 5 years, and we need to have a plan on what we're willing to pay and what upgrades we can agree. Because if we go in with just one plan and they say no, then we're gonna be caught with, paying.
Right, that's
We
where
got
I'm going,
that.
like, let's
We got
table
that,
this, we
yeah.
know that's our
We're
dream,
good.
but let's also have
Our
a reality.
and Rick will we've held you over. Our first job is to get our team together.
Thank you.
That's our.
Okay, you guys get your team together, figure out what you want to do, and if necessary, I can call a meeting of our moderators together to begin that discussion. I will go ahead and call them tomorrow to let them know that you guys are at least thinking about this stuff, and then we can go from there.
I think that would be great because, and I say this not believing it, but it could be a slam dunk, no way. And it would really help us to know that sooner than later. And I'm not saying that's the case, but if you could do that for us, that really would be a great help.
Yeah, I think one of the concerns going forward would be the David shooting straight would be the age of the pastor and the longevity of the congregation. I think that would be their only concern, that if something happens to you, does this congregation continue if we do a 5-year lease or if we're selling the property to you guys? I think that is something that cannot be in our hands, or it's ultimately in the hand of God. But that would be a consideration in this process.
Well, I have made the statement to my people more than once that I'm the weakest cog in the wheel. I'm aware of that.
I'm not trying to be mean or anything. I'm just speaking, I'm just shooting straight with you guys.
Hey, listen, Dr. what's his name at New Orleans told me 4 years ago. He said, man, you are way past retirement. Step down and get a younger guy, or that church will never make it.
No, you see, that's not what I'm saying. However, there will be people who take the size of the congregation, the age of the pastor, all those things into consideration as they do that stuff.
Yeah.
So just be aware that those will be considerations for people, and that you have an answer to respond in an FAQ, or just know that could be something that comes up in the discussion.
Yeah. But we're good. I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, hey, I want your congregation to know I am in this for you, for the sake of the gospel and for the sake of the kingdom, and I encourage and invite whatever is best for our association and for your church for the sake of the gospel. So I am very glad to work with you guys in this process, and can't wait to see what God is going to do after we pray, study, prepare, plan, and do what he calls us to do. So thank you guys for this time, even on the phone.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
More barbecue soon. Bye. He loves barbecue. Okay, everything off. Pull the plug.